hearing through dealing with rezoning. In the morning session, we've heard from all of the 42 officers, and we're halfway through the last of those, being Mr. Loon dealing with rezoning matters at Masterton District. And we were up to page 6 of your summary report, paragraph 38, dealing with Jews Brothers Limited.
Mr. Tom Anderson submitted planning evidence on behalf of submitted Jews Brothers Limited. The submission sought to rezone a piece of land next to the Masterton Hood Aerodrome, adjoining that part of the designation referenced MDC M04B from general rural zone to mixed use zone. Alternatively, the submission mentioned the possibility for an aviation special purpose overlay. Mr. Anderson states in his evidence in chief that the idea for the Jews Brothers land to be used for the same purpose as that within the Hood Aerodrome designation was based on the Hood Aerodrome Master Plan 2021. And this has been included in Mr. Anderson's evidence, Appendix A. As mentioned in my Section 42A report and as agreed by Mr. Anderson, the land is included in the master plan, which was adopted by MDC on the 4th of August 2021. In the council agenda, it's noted that the Hood Aerodrome Master Plan is not a blueprint for development, but a way of protecting the aerodrome for changes and expansion that may occur and ensuring that infrastructure enables and supports the aerodrome's potential for the next 20 plus years. In my Section 42A report, I note that the land was included in the master plan as a protected land area, which was an indication of land that council should seek to protect as it is a strategic significance to the aerodrome and further development. I met with Mr. Anderson on the 2nd of May via Teams to discuss Hood Aerodrome Ancillary Precinct as drafted and the further evidence received. Mr. Anderson and I are both aligned that the master plan protects this land for future development and therefore sets some general intent for future development at the site. However, I note the master plan is vague on timeframes and does not commit the site to a specific development. There is no structure plan over this piece of land, and the only information relates to the intention for this to include privately owned hangar homes. I consider the following matters remain outstanding. Mr. Anderson provided a draft Hood Aerodrome Ancillary Precinct within Appendix B of his evidence. I consider further refinement is required to the wording to set out a clear link between the Hood Aerodrome Ancillary Precinct and Hood Aerodrome and clearly set out what is compatible and incompatible. After my discussion with Mr. Anderson on the 2nd of May, we agree that the precinct, if adopted, should be included as its own chapter as opposed to being embedded within the mixed use zone to follow National Planning Standard framework. This is because it would need to contain its own rules. From my initial read through, I consider the following key changes are needed to the draft precinct as well as consequential amendments. Would you like me to read through those?
Could you just explain that it's a bit further for me? I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
Which part, sorry?
If adopted and embedded in the mix, you said follow national planning standards, right? That whole doing it this way rather than that way.
The National Planning Standard framework, if a precinct has its own rules, it directs us to put it in its own chapter rather than it be within the mixed use zone rules and refer to the Hood Aerodrome Precinct within the rules framework in there. So
in the same vein as a heritage precinct also. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Or yeah.
There's no need to read items A to G. What we're understanding is that you're seeking quite a wholesale change to some of the provisions dealing with definitions, objectives, policies, rules, standards, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Imagine there'd be a number of coloured changes upon Lanson's own read change.
Yes.
Okay. But are those changes are they fundamental changes or are they more nuancing? Would you describe them?
There's some parts of the chapter as drafted that would need a complete change. At the moment, it's embedded in the mixed use zone.
Putting aside the structure, though, Other substantive changes, putting aside that it won't be in the zone, it would be in its own precinct. Other changes like the new definition and changing the objectives and policies, adding new standards, are they substantially different to what Mr. Anderson's put forward, or are they tinkering with what?
No, it's more tinkering and just a change in activity status for some of the activities.
Okay, and what can you give us an example?
Yes, so I think in section E, I've said that the rule framework should be no more permissive than the mixed use zone. As drafted, retail and food and beverage activities are a controlled activity, but I think this should reflect the discretionary status, which is under the mixed use zone.
Okay, that gives us a good flavour of what you're suggesting compared to what Mr. Anson's suggesting. Can I just ask an earlier question, and that's this draft for Eurozone ancillary precinct. Was there anything similar in the notified plan, or is it something completely new?
No, I'm not aware of anything similar. This would be new.
And this came through in Mr. Anderson's evidence, didn't it? His appendix B to his evidence.
It came in through the submission.
It came in on the submission, that's it?
Sorry, the drafting of the chapter came in as evidence.
Yes.
Yes. Which I believe I asked for in my section 42A.
Yes. Have you addressed your mind to whether there's scope to introduce the ancillary precinct?
Given the submission, I thought there was scope.
Okay. It's just a different way of delivering the relief sought.
Yes, and the submission did talk to an overlay.
Okay.
Okay.
If you go down that line though, given that, would you have to then go out and consult with all the people inside that have got issues with inside the aerodrome, given that they wouldn't have had any chance to comment on this?
Inside the aerodrome being leaf.
Well, I'm assuming inside Mania Road and Southport Road, the designation of the airfield is
Inside the blue lines.
inside the blue line. Well, inside the whole, I presume, if you're talking about an airfield precinct, it incorporates the entire Wood aerodrome.
Already indicated in the master plan for those sorts of activities, and I think you'd be consulting more the designating authority, which is.
But you're saying you're going to bring in a new chapter as a precinct, which wasn't part of the consultation we went out to. So all those different owners of hangars and so on may have some view on this, didn't they?
Yes, except that the submitters sought a certain outcome, and the precinct is a way of delivering the outcome. So the outcome was stipulated in the summary of submissions, which would have been mixed use zoning. So instead of having a mixed use zone, well, it could still have a mixed use zone, but it could be something to a precinct.
Yes.
But would the precinct only be inside the little red part in the corner, or would it incorporate the entire Wood aerodrome region?
No, just the submitter's property. The rest is in a designation.
Seems pointless doing that. It's basically making a precinct for one section.
That section was indicated in the master plan. The Hood Aerodrome master plan is an area for future development.
I understand that, but if I understand the concept of a precinct, it's not a section. It's an area that incorporates everything happening within that wide area, which is taxiing areas, hangars, the whole lot on the aerodrome. I would have thought that we need to be a bit smarter about how we're doing things about an aerodrome, rather than carving off a corner section within an aerodrome and giving it its own designation. It seems to be quite ludicrous.
It's not within the aerodrome.
We can discuss that. I wouldn't get too worried about the term precinct. There are a number of different ways that the submitter could have sliced this. It could have actually just had a separate rule section within the MUZ, presumably, that was related to the site, but they're wanting to, they've suggested a precinct for our consideration. We're not obliged to.
No,
accept that.
I'm just saying that if you go down that line, it has a for me, it has an understanding that is a more than just one person's area.
I was hoping we could get the designation notation put on there. And be zones and dealing.
So I guess just to clarify, the hood aerodrome designation applies to this boundary here, down, and it keeps going down, but it's down here. Now, the Jews brothers and Alice, correct me if I'm wrong, but their property is just this parcel here.
Yes.
And not subject to the current designation.
Yes, the lighter shade.
It's actually not the one on the corner of South Belt and Mania. It's kind of like the little, and nor is it the little carved out bit in South Road. It's the in-betweenies.
Yeah.
It's that under that paragraph, page 30. 18143 on the 43.
Yeah.
You'll see it.
Or paragraph 8 in the evidence of Anderson.
Were there any further submissions in opposition to the Jews Brothers initial submission?
No.
None at all. And none from the airport, the aerodrome itself. And this is a Masterton aerodrome, isn't it? Masterton Victory Council designation.
Yes.
And are the designation boundaries altering at all from?
No.
No. And well, that's subject to a separate hearing, I know.
Yes.
So those boundaries are a rollover from the operative plan.
I believe. Yes.
And the airport have developed a master plan
Yes.
to give effect to that designated control activities.
Yes.
And the master plan shows, just going by memory now, because it's in it's an attachment to Mr. Anderson's evidence, shows a protected land over the submitter's property.
Yes.
Just find that, as I said, I'm going off to memory. So submitter's number 185.
Yes.
Yes. Share.
On page 24 of the submitter's evidence. As a map, if anyone wanted to.
Yeah.
That,
Figure 1 on the top.
Yeah.
Figure 1 is some document prepared by Beckett. And it's got figure 1, foot aerodrome master plan layout. This was a 2021 plan. Is this has this been adopted by the council?
Yes, it was adopted in
is this,
August.
They don't change.
Yeah.
It's there. Yeah.
Alice, just to jump the gun a wee bit while I was sorting that out, you've obviously talked to Mr. Anderson on this, and I just see you're quite happy to talk to him regarding this.
Yeah.
You think you'll get a favourable outcome?
There are a number of other things that need to be sorted first, but just in regard to the chapter drafting itself, I was happy to work with Mr. Anderson if that would help the panel.
So they're the only two parties in the tent, really. The council as asset owner,
Yes.
who have not lodged a submission, or further submission. Council as regulatory reporting officer, and the submitter represented by Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Who owns all the hangers and everything? Ordering the top of the. Were they council owned or were they all individual?
Yeah.
privately owned.
I know. Great. That's good.
They privately
I'm
owned.
happy to be.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure actually now.
For our
Yeah.
purposes, though, we know that they're on the land, not the submitter's land.
They are.
Yeah. Okay.
They're all owned private.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
I
like
know
lease agreement.
people that own them and they're owned privately.
Lease organic.
What's your understanding of the term protected land area in the master plan? What does that mean? Does it mean protection from airport activities, or is it protection for some other purpose.
From what I have been told by the aerodrome, Hood Aerodrome team, it is protected land for future development.
Future development by who?
Well, it's unclear,
Yeah.
but it does say for private hangar homes.
But it's land that's, or in the case of the Jews brothers, it's land that's not owned by the airport.
It's not owned by the airport.
Is that, that's the name of that road, is that
No,
Manoa Road? It's protected land on the other side of Manoa Road.
Yeah.
That goes, I don't know if you can scroll to the north, down, yeah.
Yeah.
Goes up to, well, basically parallel to the runway.
so on paragraph 13 of page 6 of the evidence, it says it is explained in table 9 of the master plan that the protected land area is for, and I quote, protecting development of private land to the north and northeast of the airfield, and in brackets, for hangars or other commercial development.
Okay.
That helps.
So it's not being the light protection or end protection
No,
for the operation, safe operation of the aerodrome.
my understanding was just for development.
I sat on the Hood Advisory Group when in my first term of council, and when a lot of this was discussed, and I think I'm just going to rack my brains now because it's a few years ago. I'm pretty sure that, as I've just read out there, it was protecting land around the airfield against residential development potentially. So it would be sort of in relation to activities for an aerodrome.
Okay, we stopped you at paragraph 45. I think.
Yes. As far as noise effects, Mr. Anderson raises that given noise is regulated through noise R14, that this is appropriately covered and reverse sensitivity is appropriately addressed. Mr. Anderson has included a noise report by Marshall Day Acoustics, which concluded that to enable the master plan, the district plan noise boundaries need to be revised to allow for changes in stage 2 and 3. I also consider a revision of the noise contour should be undertaken prior to rezoning the site, noting the site sits outside of the designation and in closer proximity to the general residential zone.
That raises a question about scope to change those noise contours. I mean,
There might not be scope.
and we'll put that to Mr. Anderson. Okay, paragraph 46.
In paragraph 25 of his evidence, Mr. Anderson refers to table 9 of the master plan airfield staging, where stage 2A includes features and benefits as being an aviation attraction display facility and development of private land to the northeast of the field for private hangars or aviation related commercial development.
Yes, that's just what we discussed, isn't it?
Master plan is not clear which land northeast is being referred to, but it is inferred part of this is the submitter's land identified as protected land area. I consider that consultation with the Hood Aerodrome Asset Manager is appropriate, given the master plan includes this piece of land to be protected, as well as the intention for the precinct being ancillary to the Hood Aerodrome. Based on the current draft, at this stage, I retain my recommendation to reject the proposal, but emphasise that I'm happy to work with Mr. Anderson and facilitate discussion with the Hood Aerodrome Asset Manager to ensure the wording provides for the intended use while appropriately managing any potential effects if it was decided to be rezoned. I agree with that the Hood Aerodrome Ancillary Precinct being tied to aviation-related activities can help to avoid the undermining of the Marsden Town Centre zone, but retain that further refinement of the precinct framework is needed before rezoning the site is considered appropriate.
Yes. You put that under the protection and vitality of the Marsden Town Centre. That's what's the issue there? That the MUZ might detract from
Yes,
vitality.
That's in the objectives and policies of the mixed use zone, that any activities don't undermine the town centre zone. I agree with Mr. Anderson that any development of this land, if rezoned, could have an effect on roading infrastructure. For context, the site is currently an undeveloped rural piece of land. Within the subdivision chapter, Table 1 indicates that the mixed-use zone contains no minimum lot size, and as currently drafted, there would be no restriction on the number of lots that could be created at the site. While I agree with Mr. Anderson that high traffic generating activities are provided for through TRR 5, I am not confident that if ad hoc subdivision of this property occurred, that the cumulative effects on roading infrastructure will be captured through TRR 5. I agree with Council's roading manager that there should be a strategy for this piece of land to have an idea on the potential impacts on the roading network. While I understand the site is noted as a protected land for future development in the master plan, my understanding is that no further advancement was undertaken into the anticipated scale of activities over this particular site
By the airport or
by the aerodrome. An indication of potential future development over this site does not justify not requiring a traffic impact assessment, especially given the potential number of privately owned allotments that could be possible in the current rural zoning. I therefore retain my recommendation that further information is required. As for Three Waters infrastructure, Council Services Department have indicated there is capacity in the nearby network, but that the extension of the services to the boundary would have to be at the cost of the developer. The land is considered productive land due to the presence of Class 3 soil. Mr. Anderson specifically highlights clause 3.57BI referring to HBL applying on Class 1, 2 and 3 land, where a site has not been identified for future urban development. Future urban development is defined in the NPS HPL as meaning A, identified in a published future development strategy as land suitable for commencing development over the next 10 years, or B, identified in a strategic planning document as an area suitable for commencing urban development over the next 10 years, and 2, at a level of detail that makes the boundaries of the area identifiable in practice. Mr. Anderson has concluded that the NPS HPL is not applicable to this piece of land, given that the site is included in the Hood Aerodrome Master Plan, and that this is a strategic planning document. While the master plan is silent on actual dates, it is unclear whether this is a strategic growth plan or an asset plan. I am aware that work within stage 1A and 2A is underway. It is inferred that the land owned by the submitter is the land to the northeast of the airfield, identified in stage 2A as land that could include private development. Based on this, I would agree that the land has been identified for future growth within a 10-year timeframe. However, I continue to question whether the Hood Aerodrome Master Plan would be considered a strategic planning document for the purpose of meeting the definition for future urban development. Specifically, I question the nature of the Hood Aerodrome Master Plan and whether this would be an asset plan or a strategic growth plan, albeit at a local scale rather than the district. I suggest Mr. Anderson address this further at the hearing.
before you go to conclusion, if you go back, that definition of what future urban development thing, 51, your quoted paragraphs A and B. It's definitely not a future development strategy, is it? In terms of
No.
we know that is. It would need to be it would need to be a strategic planning document, which commencing urban development over the next 10 years, or at a level of detail that makes the boundaries identifiable in practice. But with Mr. Anderson's of the view that master plan meets those definitions, you're not so certain.
Not certain.
We'll take that up with Mr. Anderson.
Oh, I apologize. Would you like me to?
Good, please.
Sorry. I acknowledge the master plan identifies the site as a protected land area, retaining that the rezoning of the site to a mixed-use zone, Hood Aerodrome Ancillary Precinct has some merit. As the site is rezoned from a rural zone to an urban zone, I retain that further information is required as far as the impact on the roading infrastructure, greater detail as to the potential development at the site, and a fit-for-purpose Hood Aerodrome Ancillary Precinct chapter. At this stage, I retain my position as set out in my section 42A.
Well, we've noted a number of questions from the standards panel. Was there any questions of Callus at this stage? I wonder then why whether we park the East Lee matter now. You're going to be here tomorrow,
And here's mine.
and we'll deal with that first thing in the morning.
Yes.
Just conscious that there are submitters scheduled. You want to take us to then 4.3.
Yes.
Are you happy with that, Cameron?
Absolutely.
We're not hearing from each tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
So, we'll go to Mr. Simon Burns.
Yep.
Mr. Simon Burns sought his property 47 Oak Street be rezoned from general rural zone to general residential zone. Mr. Andrew Cumming has provided planning evidence on behalf of Mr. Byrne. I agree with Mr. Cumming that an expert engineering report on three water servicing and site suitability would be helpful to be provided to the panel. Mr. Cumming agrees with my analysis within my section 42A report, but focuses his evidence on 4 outstanding matters. I agree with Mr. Cumming that prior to determining the rezoning request, an infrastructure report on Three Waters is provided to confirm the site would be suitable for further development. I note any further future development would require the extension of the service mains to the property boundary. I also agree that a report would be helpful to address the overland flow paths over the site and ensure that any development in this area would not exacerbate any localized flooding. The property 47 Oak Street contains LUC3 land and is therefore considered highly productive land under the MPS HPL. In my section 42A, I asked that the submitter provide an assessment against clause 3.46 of the MPS. As part of his assessment, Mr. Cumming agrees that the PDP provides sufficient development capacity for housing for the short and medium term and not the long term. I agree with Mr. Cummings' assessment against clause 3.64A of the MPS that the site would contribute to providing development capacity. However, short and medium term capacity is already provided for. The shortfall is with land available to meet the long-term demand. Where a future urban zone may indicate capacity for long-term demand, this request relates to rezoning to general residential zone rather than future urban zone. I agree with the points raised by Mr. Cumming in his assessment against clause 3.64C of the MPS, specifically in regard to the site being similar in size to some of the properties suggested for rezoning along South Road, but retain that an agricultural assessment be undertaken and provided to support the submission prior to rezoning being accepted, especially given the land is currently in rural use. While I agree with the conclusions made by Mr. Cumming that the matters of control under the subdivision provisions widely cover those matters that would be raised through a structure plan, I still consider that where there is a rezoning from general rural to residential, it is helpful to understand the number of lots that would need to be supported from an infrastructure and roading point of view. I retain my original position as outlined in the section 42A report that the site is well located to the existing urban environment and is well accessed by existing transport corridors. I retain that prior to making a decision on the rezoning, expert reports should be provided as requested above.
Well, also, thank you. Well, just see if there's any questions on that, and then I'm going to invite you to sit down and we'll hear from the first submitter. Questions of the officer in relation to submission by Simon Byrne.
All good.
Thank you. Okay, so we've made up a little bit of time for that way, for kicking the can down the road. Can I ask Simon Byrne and to come up to the submitted people? You with me for a moment? Well, welcome, gentlemen. Apologies for running 20 minutes late. I've heard from you, Mr. Byrne, previously. Going stream 1 and 2, I think.
You have a very good memory. Mind you, I was a bit more theatrical.
You challenged us a few numbers, so.
A nice big PowerPoint presentation up there as well.
And welcome, Mr. Cumming. This is your first attendance, I think, at these hearings, isn't it?
It is, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for turning up in person. That's very much appreciated. Who's going to kick off?
I'll lead off if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
We've got your evidence of 28th of April. We don't expect you to read it, but I want to take us through some of the 5 points. Yes. Oh, okay. I understand there's a couple of emails come in this morning.
Yes, that's perhaps where I'd like to go first, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
Just before you do, I presume you've managed to familiarise yourself with the summary statement.
Yes.
Yes, from last Friday.
Yes.
And I appreciate you've come on later in the sequence, so we understand that.
I'm going to lean on that point, Mr. Chair.
Yes, to a certain extent, I can understand that. But we're in your hands. You take us through those emails, perhaps, to start with.
Okay, well, the email has attached an engineering assessment of the site and a primary production assessment of the site. So I appreciate that. I got those in my hands over the weekend, and I emailed yesterday, and I understand, I didn't expect that you would have been across them already. So the email asked Mr. Chair if you would accept them, essentially, into the process.
Can you just find them? Come through.
11:35 this morning.
I was tripping. Don't worry about
Yeah, the email's not been either now.
it.
Sorry, so far it's kicked us out of our email system.
Yeah, I've been kicked out of the system, but could you try it again, Ruth, and I'll just see if it will be on the phone. It won't come up here.
So do you want me to forward it to everyone?
Well, it won't help. I've been kicked out of South Africa completely. I do have some hard copies that's of any use. I don't expect people to digest it in 30 seconds, but
I was just trying to find the actual email itself. Maybe if you could hand up, have you got a hard copy of the email and the reports?
not the email, just the reports.
But the email had the reports anyway, didn't it?
So they were attached to the email. Yes, the email was a request that they be accepted by the chair.
I don't know why it's kicked me out. I won't let me pick them up.
I've got them, so we can split them.
Well done, you.
Man panel.
That's the engineering reports. Oops, that's the activity. It's probably my agency.
Yeah. But now, so it's 1:55.
technology is great, but when it stops up, it's all good, doesn't it?
Your IT support person?
Wow.
I could fill in.
It's picked up.
Thank you.
Oh,
No, that wasn't me.
my granddaughter rebooted it.
Thank you.
Which one are you going to start with?
Mr. Chair, I'm in your hands as to whether it's worth trying to walk through the reports. I would simply summarise them very quickly.
Yeah, summer all.
Understand how we best handle this, though.
Okay.
You and me for a couple of minutes, just right now. Was there anything covering?
No, that was it. It's just the two
So
reports.
I've got the two reports in electronic form. And was there a covering email also from you that stated what they were?
Yes, it stated what they were, and it was a request to you that they be accepted into the process.
I don't have your original email, I have a paraphrase of it from the administrator. Says that the reports are brief and would assist the hearings panel without prejudicing other hearing process. Stuff.
That does sound like my covering email, so unless that was paraphrased.
Just provide the context for providing those two reports.
So it goes to the timeframe that I was operating under, but also the indications that council staff had given to Mr. Byrne about the type of information that would assist them in their recommendations to you, and then in my analysis would assist the panel in making a determination on Mr. Byrne's submission. So
Yes.
hence I, on behalf of Mr. Byrne, commissioned those reports as soon as possible, thinking that, well, if I waited until the hearing and asked for them to be accepted before the right of reply, we may still miss the bus. So we went ahead and got them, and happily they're to hand. So hopefully that's just on the nick of time.
So I'm reading from paragraph 73 of the summary statement. It says that Mr. Cummings agrees with my analysis from the section 42 report, but provided evidence of 4 outstanding matters: tree waters and ground suitability, highly packed soil, and structure plan. So one of these reports will be agricultural assessment, presumably,
That's correct.
and that's from Land Vision.
Yes,
And the other report is from Origin,
correct.
and presumably they're an engineering company.
That's right.
So they've looked at tree waters, ground conditions, roading matters, and like
Correct. And
dated around the 9th or 10th of May. So they're very, very hot off the press.
indeed, sir.
And you won't have seen these.
Everything there.
Okay. We just take a short adjournment, please.
Yes,
It might be easier if we were now leave the room and just discuss the panel well between the reporting of.
Adjourned?
Yes.